Some, including a law enforcement officer, have reported seeing giant black pterodactyl-like creatures with 8 to 12-foot wingspans. Some say this large creature is a mythical thunderbird, prominent in local Native American mythology, and others have reported seeing vicious red-eyed dogs and giant snakes. At Anawan Rock, named for Chief Anawan, who surrendered here to the colonists, ending the King Philip's War, legend says that the angry spirits of native warriors continue to haunt the area, starting spectral fires and ghost dancing. Throughout the Bridgewater Triangle, numerous paranormal reports have been made. Mysterious glowing eyes of unseen creatures are seen in the darkness, and glowing lights hover above the trees. Native American ghosts are seen paddling canoes in the waterways. The ghost of a red-haired hitchhiker is seen along a stretch of Route 44 in Rehoboth, and another ghostly phantom appears in the Hockomock Swamp near Route 138. I have heard the story of the hitchhiker, okay, so many times that me and my friends, we would go for car rides in the middle of the night down this certain stretch of road to try to find it.
What?
Yeah.
Nuh-uh.
I swear. And there was always this like legend. I don't know if it morphed from this or if this is like a deeper dive into the story, but it was supposedly said like if you drove down at night and you like looked in your rearview mirror, he would be sitting in your back seat. So we used to try this. We used to do this. And never worked, but
That's crazy.
I've heard this story.
I'm glad you brought that up because I have a very specific
cool
story.
Even better. Yeah, I remember this story. And like I said, we sought this out as younger people, and I thought it was cool.
would too. I would have too.
Well, this gives me like validity of the stuff that we used to talk about when we were kids.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, okay, this really did happen. The area is also a hotbed of UFO sightings. The first sighting actually occurred in 1760, and numerous others followed. In 1908, a UFO sighting near Bridgewater was documented in local newspapers. In 1968, 5 people claimed that they saw a strange ball of light floating among the trees in wooded area of Rehoboth. In 76, 2 UFOs were seen landing along Route 44 near Taunton. I'm always going to put the emphasis on Taunton.
Taunton.
Taunton. In 1994, a Bridgewater law enforcement officer reported seeing a triangle-shaped craft with red and white lights. And in the summer of 1999, a fast-moving UFO accompanied by a loud noise was reported near Lake Nippennicket. I didn't say a bad word. It's Nippennicket.
Nippennicket.
Nippennicket. There is no explanation for why this area has been affected by strange phenomena for so many years. Some say that the area has been cursed by Native American spirits because the land was taken from the Wampanoag people. Others believe that the area emanates negative and disruptive energy because of the brutal conflict between early settlers and the native people of the region during the King Philip's War, the bloodiest war per capita in American history. By the end of the war, nearly 3,000 Wampanoag men, women, and children were killed or sold onto slave ships bound for the West Indies. Some say it is haunted by these many people who lost their lives and their lands. Yet others believe that the area is a vortex or a window where the laws of gravity seem not to operate in the way that we understand in the natural world. No matter what you believe, be it Bigfoot, UFOs, giant snakes, ghosts, or even puckwudgies, one fact remains, and that is that the blood of those people who had their homes and their lives stolen away, and in no matter the time that passes, the spirits of the native people will never truly die, and they have and will continue to defend their home for as long as the Hockomock Swamp holds the water they once revered and feared.
Ooh, that was a good one. I like that. There is so much here.
It's a lot of, we're talking about, look, I know outside of the U.S., people think we are uncultured and America doesn't really, we're new. We're a baby country. But you have to remember that a lot of us have Native American blood, and they were here long before anybody showed up.
Oh, yeah.
So for America being known as America is very young, but the land is very old.
Yes. And I think the land previous and the people previous were much more spiritual people than normal Americans tend to be. And I think that may bring up a lot of things and stuff that has just been poured into the land.
Well, I mean, that is the basis of Native American culture is they're very spiritual, and they don't worship one God. They worship the land. And the easiest way to describe it is that where a Christian person prays to God, Native American people pray to everything that the land holds, the birds, the trees, the sky, the wind, the water. Everything is almost like its own God.
Yeah.
And it's just about, that's why, Native Americans really do care for the land, because they believe that the land is what takes care of them.
It's beautiful. It really is.
It is.
It is. It's an amazing premise to take on the land that you live in.
It is. And I have very strong feelings on what happened to the Native Americans and how they are all shucked away into some of the worst chunks of land and given, reservations that suck.
Yeah.
And then are just treated like an outcast, whatever. I'm not going to get into that because this is not a political thing or anything.
I get it.
But I have very strong feelings of it. Look, I'm very white. I'm very Irish, but I do have Native American blood. And I grew up, like, my grandmother was very Native American. I just have some strong feelings on it. We'll get into that another time.
All right.
And I'm pretty sure you got some stuff you want to talk about.
I do. I have some stuff. Now, you brought up a lot of things.
I did.
And there are a lot of things in the Bridgewater Triangle.
So many. We're not even going to be able to touch on, like, even half of what's out there.
I know. And because I do spooky story parts, I have a bunch of smaller individual stories that touch on a lot of the subjects. So,
well, there's so many different accounts of paranormal activity. So.
And there's no way I could do it all in one story. It just sounds like an all over the place weird thing. So I decided to break it up.
I'm
it's
actually
a little different.
I'm glad you did it this way because I'd rather hear a bunch of different accounts and stuff because there are so many things.
Yeah. All right. So the Bridgewater Triangle is a curious spot in southeastern Massachusetts that's known for all manner of wacky supernatural hijinks. You name it, they probably have it. I'm pretty certain that if you look hard enough, you'll find a portal to Hogwarts, maybe under a rock, next to a UFO landing strip, and across from Bigfoot's camping ground. It's a smorgasbord of alleged paranormal phenomenon, ranging from ghosts, poltergeists, demons, to UFOs, balls of fire, glowing lights, and a varying degree of monster-type sightings. The site seems to be the equivalent of a fashion model runway for every cryptozoological, oh my God, I can't say that.
Cryptozoological.
Thank you. Creature ever recorded. In all of these specific locations that are brought up in the Bridgewater Triangle, you have to remember that there are neighborhoods with families trying to live their lives, people who enjoy nature and like to spend their time in it, or just unsuspecting people who live in or are visiting the area. And unfortunately, some of them end up having crazy and unbelievable stories to tell. Story 1. One of the first ever recorded stories was a UFO sighting in 1760. It was just another regular morning in New England when a strange noise that no one could identify began echoing from the sky. Witnessers observed a strange, glowing shape above, bright enough to cast a large shadow in broad daylight. The light was reportedly seen in both Roxbury and in Bridgewater, Massachusetts, by multiple people. The local papers reported it, and it became the very first UFO sighting in the Bridgewater Triangle. It was the first of many strange incidents to come. Over many more years, many mysterious objects showed up in the skies. Even today, There are photographs and news reports dating back hundreds of years. On July 3rd, 1972, people in the South Shore area looked up in the night sky and spotted a strange sight. A large triangular object that looked like a baseball diamond was seen hovering in the sky. It was reported to be translucent and massive in size. The local naval base received numerous calls inquiring about the object. To this day, no one has any answers as to what it was. The object was reportedly visible for over a half an hour, and at least 26 people were confirmed to have seen it. Story 2. Certain Native American tribes believe in the thunderbird, a legendary giant condor-like bird with great powers. In the Hockomock Swamp, there have been numerous sightings of giant pterodactyl-looking creatures similar to thunderbirds. In 1971, Police Sergeant Thomas Downey was driving near Bird Hill in Easton, Massachusetts. As he was patrolling, he claimed to have seen a 6-foot-tall creature with a wingspan nearly double its size. He watched the bird fly off and sat in his car in awe of what he just saw. He went to report it to the Easton police. They may have laughed, but he has stuck to his story all of these years. Native American ghost sightings have taken place all over the Triangle. But Anawan Rock, the site where the king was captured that led to the end of the King Philip's War, is known for seeing ghost fires. People see visions either off in the distance, close up, or around corners. Standalone fires would just be there. Some fires have even been seen in the middle of lakes. Story 3. This story comes from a man named Bill Russo. About 30 years ago, after working a midnight shift at Raynham Iron, he came home and decided to take his dog, who was a German Shepherd Rottweiler mix, for a walk. The walk started as any other walk would have until they started walking under the streetlights down Cynthia Street. That's when they came across something strange. He noticed his dog started shaking uncontrollably, like she was scared of something. At first, he couldn't see or hear what it was that was bothering her, but then it reached his ears too. It sounded like Ki-er, Ki-er, I-want-you. It was a very dark night, and under the streetlight, a big circle of light shone down on the pavement. And from the darkness, stepping into the light, came a creature. It was between 3 and 4 feet tall and looked almost like a stuffed animal, almost like a teddy bear. It was 100 pounds or so with a pot belly, its eyes a little too big for its head, and it was motioning to him, beckoning him with its arm to come closer. At first, he thought it was a kid in a Halloween costume, but he tried to talk to it, and it just kept repeating its crazy phrase. He said he wasn't scared because he was so much larger than the creature, but his dog was terrified. So they decided to leave. When they got back, Bill had to think incredibly hard about the incident and eventually came to the conclusion that the creature was actually trying to speak English to him, and he believes it was trying to say, "Come here, we want you." Bill has always said he is not a paranormal guy, He has never had